Hey, shalom, shalom. First off, we give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh.
Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakorash.
With double honor to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us this word and teach us this word today. And want to give a salutation unto the hopeful elect scattered from the four corners of the earth. This is the GMS Nebraska camp. Just a brother Yatazak here with
You call them off?
Kawashab.
And in this lesson, what we want to go into is going into how the blessing that the nation of Israel was blessed with the land of Israel being um, that land flowing with milk and honey, being a place of plenteousness. Well, the Lord has kept that blessing away from Esau. Even though Esau is in the land today, the Lord has not he's not allowing Esau to reap the full benefit of being in that land. You know, and this lesson stems from we was reading in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5. And can we grab Wisdom of Solomon 5 and we can read verse 15 through 16.
Uh, this is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 15. It says, but the righteous shall live evermore. The reward also is with the Lord, and the care of them is with the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore shall they receive a glorious kingdom and a beautiful crown from the Lord's hand.
Yep.
For with his right hand shall he cover them, and with his arm shall he protect them.
Yeah, you see that it says that the Lord is going to give us a glorious kingdom and a crown is going to be given to us from his hand. And when you read up in the chapters, drawing a comparison between the wicked and their rule, and then it's talking about our rule. It talks about the wicked's rule is but for a moment. It's even though to our perspective, Esau's been ruling for a while. To our perspective, Esau has this great rule in the earth today. But then it's basically saying that it's minuscule compared to the greatness of our rule, you know? And so then when you go into verse 16, like it says, we are going to receive a beautiful crown, a glorious kingdom. And it's going to be given to us from the Most High Yahweh, through Yahweh Shai. Like it says, can we grab that where it says, I go to prepare a place for thee? We grab that, John.
Yep, this is the book of St. John, chapter 14, and verse 2. It says, in my father's house are many mansions.
Mm-hmm.
If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you.
And that's the thing, because we want to, here in a second, we're going to specifically touch on the land of Israel in and of itself. But the rules in Esau's rule and the heathens rule versus the nation of Israel rule in general is a huge difference in how, in the greatness, because like it says, the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven was given unto Esau and it was given unto Jacob. And Esau is eating of that blessing of the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven. He has the resources of the earth. He has the possessions of the earth in his hand. He owns these companies. You know what I'm saying? He owns the resources. He owns the lands. But there's a cap and a limit that the Lord has placed on Esau and what he owns, to where Esau would like to go to different planets and expand his rule. He wants to go to Mars and colonize Mars. But like it said in John 14 and 2, in the place that Yahweh Shai is preparing for us, there's many mansions. Those mansions talking about them planets. There's a a much greater I won't want to say a limit. There's a much greater horizon to what is going to be given unto us than what is given to Esau.
Yeah.
You have something?
Yeah. That's what you were saying. This is Job 14, verse 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou has appointed his bounds that he cannot pass.
Mm-hmm.
Just like going to like what the brother was saying. Esau, this is his time. You know what I'm saying? He wants to do more. He wants to do this, that, and the third. But it says that his days are determined with the Heavenly Father, right? They're measured by the Heavenly Father. They're controlled. Whatever he's doing within that apparatus of time that he's been given is all he can do. And like we were briefly talking about it before the camera came on. Between me and this brother here, First Thessalonians, the second chapter, the seventh verse, it says that he who now will let until he be taken out of the way. So bringing that up to say that the Most High gave him a time, Esau, Edom, that is the wicked, to do whatever it is that he's doing within his rule. You know, and circling back to what that brother's point is, our kingdom being plenteousness,
Yep.
filled righteousness, man, and that's we didn't ask for it, but this is what produces life. We ain't complaining. All right,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it to that, brother.
Kind
Because Esau ain't got no real control, but he's doing his thing because it says that in Lamentation, to rejoice and be glad. This is his time. Live it up. Do what you do. Well, you're only gonna get to where I allow you. You know.
God. Yeah, I got a precept for you. Huh? This is Psalms, the second chapter, and verse 1. It says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us."
You want to get into it up?
Don, basically that's one of their vain thoughts. It's like your brother's saying, they want to come together and rebuild this Tower of Babel system all over again so they could go against the Most High and travel the stars and do this and that. Because we know through the laws, statutes, and commandments, that's how we're gonna rule. But he wants to rule his own way. And as we know, his ways leads to death. And ultimately it's vain. He's not gonna get far because the Lord is gonna crush his plans. You know,
Yeah. The brothers have any other precepts or points before we go on?
La.
Okay, let's grab Second Ezra chapter 8, verse 52, Bible shot.
God, this is Second Ezra chapter 8, verse 52. It says, "For unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared, plenteousness is made ready, a city is builded, and rest is allowed, yea, perfect goodness and wisdom."
And this is explaining the kingdom that is prepared for us, where it said paradise is open, the tree of life is planted. And what our kingdom hinges upon is the fact that we're going to be in our second covenant when we're in the kingdom. Therefore, we're going to rule in righteousness. Therefore, our kingdom is going to eternally flourish, and life is going to persist from it. As the scriptures say, righteousness is immortal. But now, in the essence of time and how long we're going to be ruling, but it's going to continue to grow and become and be beautiful and be great. You got places, and we're going to get into that here shortly. But you got places here while Esau's ruling that's barren. You know what I'm saying? That's decrepit. You know, the earth in general, but you have beautiful places on the earth that Esau has access to. That certain people live in. Certain areas, certain countries have beautiful, natural things. But you got places that's dealing with deforestation. You know what I'm saying?
Forest.
Yeah, yeah, uninhabitable, and like I mentioned, we're going to get into it here shortly. But the the land of Israel itself is arid. You know what I'm saying? So it's a barren place. It says that when basically when Esau first was coming into the land, when we talk about like 1948, they dealt with the land being in a state of not being able to grow things. You know what I'm saying? We was just doing the search before the lesson. Israel has to import trees because of because of the lack of lushness of the land. Yet this is a part of the Fertile Crescent.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's showing the ramifications of ruling in wickedness. You know. Now, what did it say? For our kingdom, it says plenteousness is made ready. Let's grab that etymology in that word plenteousness. Bible shop.
Um, it is, it just gives us plenteous. Um, in the etum, let's see what's like. Let me see. Yes, so the double check. Maybe she's giving us plenty. Yeah. So it just goes back to plenteous in the etum. It says sub 1300. Says plenteousness, plenteous is fertile, fruitful, prolific.
Mm-hmm.
It says Old French plevios. It says fertile, rich,
Yeah.
abundant, abundance, abundant, plentiful, copious.
So our that's beautiful, bro. When we come into rule, it's gonna be rich, it's gonna be fertile, it's gonna be fruitful. We're not gonna have to want for nothing. Our land is gonna yield crop. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have the rainfall we need. You know, we're not gonna be short on nothing. We're not gonna have to it says that we're gonna get like we're gonna import the best of what the heathen have, but it's not like we're gonna need for that. If Esau don't get the imports that he has here to America or to the land of Israel today, if they don't get them imports from the different countries, they'll be hurting.
That's it.
You know?
That's
But
it.
we ain't gonna need that because what our land is gonna be fertile, it's gonna be fruitful. And Esau is cursed to where he isn't being able to take part of the fruitfulness that the land of Israel offered at a point, and that it will offer when we're in the kingdom. You know, and that goes back to that to the curse of Cain.
That's right. You know, I had a point. It left me. We'll get into this though. You want this right now?
Yeah, we can grab that.
Okay, Con. This is
you get into it as well, Baba Shah.
Con. This is the book of Genesis chapter 4, and you're gonna get straight to the point. This is Genesis chapter 4 and verse 11. And just to give a summary on it, but we're gonna get straight to the point. This is like the brother mentioned, the curse of Cain. So this is where all originated as to why this land of ours that's supposed to be flowing with milk and honey is not. Okay, but we'll get into it. We'll give more sense to it. It's at Genesis chapter 4, verse 11. It says, "And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth." And once again, it's going back to the curse where Cain brought that wicked sacrifice, and Abel brought a righteous sacrifice into the Lord. And what happened with Cain? He got jealous, or he got not jealous, but he was enraged because Abel was accepted and he wasn't, and he put him to death. So this is why that land, that land that Esau Edom is dwelling in, our land Israel, is cursed today. It goes back to that because, like the brother mentioned, made a beautiful point. We went to that research how they have to import millions of trees, bro. They have to import because that being on that fertile crescent. What do they call that? They call that the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
Right. So with the cradle of civilization, where you're able to, things are naturally growing in abundance. Trees, grass, natural, just natural things that helps the land to flourish.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
Esau Edom doesn't have that. Like it says, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength.
Yeah.
That's why that now look at that land. It's not yielding the strength that by being by that fertile crescent or being by these lands of water, these bodies of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's I looked up the modern land of Israel's fertility, and I just put it into Grok, and it says modern Israel's land fertility is a story of remarkable human innovation overcoming natural challenges. And Grok gonna spruce it up a bit. But what it's basically saying is that because the land naturally wasn't flourishing, Esau had to come up with certain ways and certain techniques and inventions so that their crops could be watered, so that so that they could, have some sort of flourishing. But it says naturally, it says despite being a mostly arid country, Israel has become a global leader in agricultural productivity through advanced technology, efficient water management, and intensive farming practices. But it's describing, it says Israel has an arid landscape. Much of Israel has low rainfall. And that's the Lord not giving them rain.
That's it.
That's why they have to come up with them different techniques and come up with agricultural, innovations and inventions, so that they can even have what they have today. But they shouldn't. They have to do that because it goes back to this curse. We understand that Cain was reincarnated as Esau.
That's right.
And he was about to say something.
Yeah, just think about it because it says, you should be a fugitive and a vagabond. So those same people that's over there in that land, because a vagabond really goes to a traveler. It's pretty much you're not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it goes back to that precept: a bastard shall dwell in the land of Ashdod. You're not supposed to be there, nigga, but you're there. You know what I'm saying? Because the Lord allowed us to be pushed out of that land because of our disobedience and not because it said that if you obey, then you will inherit the land of milk and honey, which I promised to your fathers.
Yeah.
But we don't have that land because of our disobedience. So of course, Esau, you got full reign to say you the true the true Jews. I'm just say it. You say you got full reign to say that. Because you don't see no so-called Negroes, no so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans over in that land. All you see predominantly, which we know that there are, through the spirit by Jake being scattered, there are some there.
Yeah, you got other nations that's there as well, but predominantly Esau is
right.
he has taken on the identity of being the Jew, of being the Most High's children. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I had something else as well.
Yep.
Where it said I typed in was ancient biblical Israel arid. And it says no, ancient biblical Israel was not uniformly arid. It had a Mediterranean climate in the north and central regions, wetter winters and dry summers with significant fertile areas. It says this mixed environment supported agriculture, herding, and settlement, aligning with the biblical land flowing with milk and honey. You know, but did you have anything, Kabashah?
La.
Okay, Baba Rashad, could you grab Ezekiel chapter 36 and start at the top?
Con,
I was going.
You got to call shot.
con, Ezekiel 36 and verse 1. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, Ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy hath said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession.
Yeah, the enemy said the ancient high places are ours in possession. And what's those places talking about our land, talking about Jerusalem. Now this is twofold because this occurred uh after the Babylonians took us over, broke down our land, um, and took us into captivity. But this has also happened in this time because our nation has been scattered across the four corners of this earth, and Esau has fit himself in. You have the other heathen that is there as well. But we can read on.
Verse 3 says, Therefore prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh to the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea,
Which
which
is
have
word for Edom or Esau, the so-called white man who is there today. And what is it saying against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea? What did they do?
it says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey.
Yeah, exactly. So that happened then, but we're living in a time when that's happening now. And we can jump down in this chapter, which shows that this is this is prophetic, because when you go down to verse 33, let's start there.
God, verse 33, it says, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, in the day that I shall have cleansed you from all your iniquities, I will also cause you to dwell in the cities, and the waste shall be builded.
And when are we going to be cleansed from our iniquities? That's when we receive salvation. That's when we're in the new bodies, established in the second covenant. We're going to be cleansed from our iniquities. It says that the Lord shall remember our sins and our iniquities no more. What righteousness is going to be written in our inward parts, right?
That's right.
So it says what when the Lord has cleansed us from all our iniquities. First, when the elect receive salvation, what I will cause you to dwell in the cities, and the waste shall be built. Let's read on.
John, it says, verse 34, And the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by.
Right. And what do we know is going to end up happening with the land of Israel? Well, just like America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire, by those missiles, well, the land of Israel is going to be destroyed as well. The only thing is, America is never going to be inhabited again. It's never going to be built up again, but that land will be built up. That's where it says, it's going to lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by, but it's going to be restored. Let's read on, Baba Shah.
John, if I may, I do got a precept for that. Um,
Yeah.
John, this is Ezekiel 38, verse 18. It says, And it shall come to pass at the same time when God shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord Yahweh, that my fury shall come up in my face. Right? So that's basically going into how the Lord's gonna put the spirit on them Russians to also, like the brother said, drop them nukes there in the land of Israel as well.
Uh,
And verse 19 goes into it. It says, For in my jealousy, in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel.
yep, yep. Kind. And that reminds me of what when it says the earth shall real to and fro like a drunkard because of the immense power emanating from the missiles. The impact of them. Well, that's is that great shaking. Is you can liken it to that because of the explosions. You know what I'm saying? Because of the mass destruction.
That's right.
Gone. Yeah, that's why in verse 20 it says, So that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground.
Exactly. So the Lord is going to make the land desolate. And but let's go back to 36 and verse.
Gone. Gone. Ezekiel 36 and verse 34, it says, And the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by. And they shall say, This land that was desolate is become like the Garden of Eden.
It's become like the Garden of Eden. So that same fertile land that it once was is going to be restored back into that fertile land. Because what? Like the scriptures say, plenteousness is made ready.
Right.
So the Lord is going to turn it back to that place of plenteousness. Like you said, plenteous means what? Fertile, fruitful. So that land that's going to be turned back into the Garden of Eden, and it's because we are going to be back there. Because what the Lord promised us, that blessing of a land flowing with milk and honey. The Lord promised that land unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then the children of Israel. That belongs to us. So even though Esau has taken over that land, it's not the Garden of Eden for him. That's why the Lord stopped that rain. That's why the Lord that's why Esau got to ship all them trees. That's why Esau got to figure out a way to irrigate, in a special way. You know, but when we get back, what does it say? It's gonna be like the Garden of Eden again. And we can finish that verse.
Con, it says, and the waste and desolate and ruined cities are become fenced and are inhabited.
Right. And how is that gonna be done? It says what that the heathen are gonna build up our walls, you know? So this place, the land of Israel is going to be you could say the capital of our kingdom.
It's gonna be the hub of righteousness, man.
Yep.
This is gonna be the hub of everything, the hub of fertility, the hub, like you said, like you mentioned. This is gonna be the hub of everything great, man. Because like I said, within was it Second Peter 3? It's a kingdom where dwell righteousness. Everybody's gonna flow to that land.
Mhm.
Everything good morally, fertility wise, agriculturally. That's where you're gonna come. That's where you're gonna have to come.
And the thing is, the heathen is gonna come to us, but there's gonna be a certain point that they can't come in because our land is going to be like the inner court of the temple,
Right.
to where only it's going to only belong to the Israelites. Only we going to be able to reap the benefit of that blessing and experience that land. You know. So yeah. The brothers have any other precepts?
Which is like a complete like when you think about it, that's a good ass point because there's only certain aspects in this life on Esau Edom's end that Jake can have access to.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have access to that great life of comfort and abundance of things here. Esau Edom, mainly like the top guys, they have access to that. So it's gonna be completely flip flop. You know what I'm saying? That was a beautiful point because um, as in this kingdom, we are profane in the sense to Esau's blessing, which when you go to that word profane goes into being outside of the temple. Same is going to be for Esau, Edom, and the heathen nations. You're going to be profane. You're going to be outside of the temple, outside of that greatness, right? You're going to witness it, but you're only going to witness what we allow you to witness, or what not we, but what Yahweh Shem Shai allows you to witness. You're not going to be able to get into the intercourse, like the brother said. The intercourse, you're not welcome.
God,
You don't have no
hey, it
VIP.
reminds me. Hey,
You,
Salaki.
you want to know Esau, y'all gonna be in the nosebleeds,
Mhm.
watching the greatness. But you go ahead, Akia.
God, I was gonna say it reminds me of the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, you know, like how we were in the bottom of the barrel this whole time. We can't even afford like basic necessities a lot of times, you know? And I got a quick precept too. But yeah, hey, they're not welcome because we weren't welcome, man. We didn't get to enjoy basic things and like it says here in Psalm 73 and 5, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got
That's
on that.
a beautiful point because it says that for the nation of Israel, Second Ezra 8, it
Hmm.
says where rest is allowed. Right now Esau, and that's a beautiful precept. Because right now Esau, he's able to rest if he wants to. He's not in trouble as other men. He ain't got to worry about making ends meet. None of that.
Hmm.
What I'm gonna eat. This dude got fucking $1 billion bunkers, bro. You know what I'm saying? On top of having wealth, So what do you need? What do you really need outside of what you are what I've already given you? Right? So the tables are gonna completely be turned, man.
Yep.
So we're not gonna want for anything. We're gonna be. It says, what is that? It says, about the lender. You should know. We don't have to get it, but pretty much we're not going to be at the borrower no more. We're going to be the lender,
Mm.
as we are the borrower now, because we have to go to our enemy and one of all things. That's going to be changed around. Okay, and the thing is, we're going to do it in the right way. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. And that same exclusivity, like you was mentioning, that Esau gets to enjoy, to where he has certain things to himself that nobody else can enjoy, that nobody else can get to. like I mentioned, that's how we gonna be with Jerusalem. Like it says in Isaiah 52:1, it says, "Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean." So the heathen gonna be on the outside. No, you can't come in here. This for us. This our place. you know, and yeah, that's all I have.
See, that's it on mine, so.
You got anything come with y'all?
Oh, kind that's all for me.
Okay, okay. Hey, with that being said, hey, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. And once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to
To
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Chakwarash.
the honors to the apostles, elders, and GMS, and salutation unto the hopeful elect. And shalom.
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 Verse 8.
Oh, it's not.
We'll do something. Verse cancel.
Uh,
Get him more.
okay.
Stop.
Gotcha.